outside, your wingspan, those of you yearning to shoot threes, I left my goal and left. The size of Barclays Center in Brooklyn here tonight. The 2017 NBA Draft will commence. Fans starting spot on the hometown Keith Left pick. Sixers will lead the way, and there are some who are already certain. And they know what's going to happen in the early part of the draft.
Wanted to formalize what's been speculated on for a few days, the acquisition of the #1 pick.
Bryan Colangelo is at the helm. He is clearly trying to improve this squad and trying to win basketball games.
They needed a superstar type of talent.
I wanted to be a Sixer.
The first pick in the 1996 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select
A 6-foot gun from Georgetown, #3, Allen Iverson.
2 decades later, we're in that same situation.
But Philadelphia is a sizzle with the party tonight.
At the top of my top 5 has Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons.
If they can get Ben Simmons.
With the first pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Ben Simmons.
Getting another piece of talent, that's going to come in and help us.
It's a very deep class, as everyone knows. The player chosen may end up being a franchise-level player.
Of course, you look at Joel Embiid and what he can do.
Joel Embiid, a gorgeous move and finish. Embiid there to say no as well.
My goal is to be the #1 pick. That's something I've been dreaming of since a kid, so hopefully I get drafted by him.
It is the epicenter of the 76ers universe, the training complex here in Camden, New Jersey, where just a few moments away the team will be making the #1 pick in the 2017 NBA Draft. This is Sixers Draft Live with Sixers radio voice Tom McGinnis. My
That's
name
a great
is
shot.
Brian
They should just
Seltzer.
leave it on that shot. Take the up and above shot. That's an awesome depiction of what is going on here as the draft coverage has started on ESPN.
As we look behind us, some of the Hardworking members of the media are assembled. What you cannot see as we look across the building up to the second level, the curtains are lowered. That is the boardroom, which has since been converted to the war room here at the Sixers training complex. You've got Brett Brown, Brian Colangelo seated side by side up there, members of the ownership group, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, David Heller, Art Rubel, and more. Everyone is in the building. Coaches, members of the training staff, all eager for this main moment for the second straight year and the fourth time in franchise history, Tom, the Sixers #1 in the draft.
It's a real exciting night. We've been talking about that, and as we get closer now here to the actual pick, it's really an exciting night, as we mentioned, for the organization, for the team, for the fans, for the city of Philadelphia, and it's going to be great. Just I don't know how it works under Brian Colangelo, but I have a sense, just in talking over the years, with how it goes in the draft room. But if you're in that room, you better be ready to be called on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if it, let's say, obviously with the first pick, I'm pretty sure the Sixers have had a consensus about where they're going with this pick. But later, I mean, if you're, I don't know if the scouts are in there, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, what do we know about this guy? Because that second round, the picks come every 2 minutes. And I'm sure they've gone through all these different scenarios. If this, then that, like boom, 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 and there's big phone calls. That's the other thing. Like, it's hopping in there with deals that are potentially on the table, left and right, and that's where Brian Colangelo, with all of his experience, it really comes to the fore for somebody in his position and what they're going to go through tonight. But I think the first pick, certainly that's what you control your own destiny, and that's what he talked about in terms of addressing the trade to get the first pick and the actual #1 pick.
The Sixers should be making that #1 pick in this year's draft in about 10 to 25 minutes time. We'll have coverage of that for you live, react to it afterwards, bring you press conferences as well. We've been doing this for the past couple hours. This is stream number 2 out of 3. Later on in the evening, we'll be joined by ESPN resident college basketball expert Joey Brackets. Joe Lunardi will be with us for most of the second round and perhaps a little bit at the end of the first round. What do the Sixers have tonight? Well, we know they have #1 overall via that trade that was completed on Monday. How dramatic and exciting was that? And then in the second round, picks number 36, 39, 46, and 50. And as Brian Colangelo alluded to, there could be a lot of activity, a lot of teams calling in recent days to gauge the Sixers' interest about a deal, whether they sell off the second round picks or maybe use some of them and some other assets to work their way back into the first round.
Well, there are a number of scenarios, you know, because as I said, and it's clearly obvious, you can't add 5 players. Now, with the two-way contracts with the G League, that's definitely opened up some things where you can have a player play in the G League and then be back on your roster and like that. But for the most part, you know that you're probably not going to put 5 players. And as we've talked about, you can draft a player and he continues to progress through his career in Europe, or as you said, there's trades. There's a lot of scenarios. So, you know, the Sixers will have a lot of time, provided the #1 pick, and then all that time to see what evolves. But that's, like I said, those are some of the assets that you hear when front office executives talk about the different things that can help to remake your team. Second round picks can be very important in that regard.
How did we get to this point? You are probably well versed in how this all happened, but the Sixers got the 3rd spot in the NBA draft lottery back on May the 16th, and word started to emerge last week, and the team was in talks with the Boston Celtics for #1 overall. That deal went down on Monday officially, so the Celtics jumped back to #3 instead of 1. The Sixers have #1 protected in 2018 and 2019, so the team's still very much in a good spot. And Brian Colangelo, in his press conference announcing the trade on Monday afternoon right here at the Sixers training complex, spoke about the depth of talent he believes is available in this year's draft class, especially at the top.
To move up and get him. Well, let's just talk specifically about #1. We do quite a bit of research and analyze the game in a number of ways. You analyze player data, you analyze productivity, efficiency of players, things to that nature. But there's a history of draft picks that you can study with a deep dive and know and understand that the odds are in your favor at number 1 more so than at any other position in the draft, that the player chosen may end up being a franchise level player. And it's a pretty significant spread. We felt in analyzing and evaluating this draft, cross-checking all those odds, that some of the talent that's there, and it's a very deep class as everyone knows, but we felt like the move from 3 to 1 was worth the cost of a first-round pick in the future. And again, knowing that we haven't taken a step outside of the draft, we still have a pick in whichever year it conveys. We have another first-round pick. So in the next 2 years, including this draft, in the next 2 drafts, rather than 4, we will have 3 picks available to us. And that's, again, something that was factored into the thought process. We haven't taken ourselves out or removed ourselves from the draft. And then further, when you add in the protections of maintaining the number 1 pick with all 4 picks, it certainly made that quite appealing. And again, reserving an option to retain number 1 next year and also retain number 1 in 19 is something that we felt was very beneficial to our ultimate position.
Brian, can you give us an idea of how long ago these trades were?
Sixers president of basketball operations Bryan Colangelo on Monday after the swap with the Boston Celtics went final. Tom, what was your reaction when you started to hear that this might be a possibility, and then to be there and hear the Sixers talking about that, yes, this was the reality, for a second straight year they'd be picking number 1?
It was awesome. I mean, I know myself personally, I was hoping that the player that they're most likely going to take, that's the player I wanted. And again, not having been totally well versed in all the different players' abilities, but that he was the standout, a consensus number 1, really. And to think that the Sixers could go out and get him, first of all, in May, you're hoping for those envelopes, and we've become accustomed to that first time out, and then the last 3 picks, and for our envelope to come out, we're number 3 again, which is great. But now to have it come to fruition in terms of a trade, kudos to Bryan Colangelo and the Sixers front office to be able to go get that done. And then with the protections that are in there, and we talked about the assets, that's where they come into play, to be able to have picks available, to be able to, if you will, dangle them out there to become an enticing package for another team like Boston. It's great. It's very exciting, and tonight is going to be a great moment for our franchise, to be sure.
And that moment is definitely drawing near. We can look across the way, across one of the practice courts here at the Sixers training complex. You can see some of the coaches milling about in their respective offices. It looks like TVs are turned on, everyone getting set and ready for the announcement of the number 1 pick, which is coming up momentarily. Certainly Markelle Fultz, the name that we've heard a lot. And then for the Sixers to get him in for a workout, Tom, on Saturday. He had only previously worked out for the Boston Celtics, which had been the team slated to go first before the trade was made, of course, and the Los Angeles Lakers as well. So for Markelle Fultz to make the drive up from the Capital Beltway region of Maryland to be here seemed like he was invested and wanted to show his stuff and make consideration.
And we waited a while. We were here from 4 till 9:30 and maybe even later for you, but that's when it really began to sink in that this is real. This is, and then to see him as we were right by where the weight room is, to see him working out with Todd Wright as we discussed with Todd, and then to go into the workout with Billy Lang and then to meet with the media, you're like, wow, this is reality. So it was a huge development, and I think the Sixers are going to get a great player and add to the mix, and then as training camp gets closer, and summer league obviously is huge, but it'll be exciting in the next few months, that's for sure. And the excitement has already built up, as we've talked about, on many fronts, from the business side and no doubt from the basketball side. And there's a high awareness right now of what's going on with the Sixers. I think here, and I've heard some cynics, you know, like, and that's okay, you know, for people, because like we haven't won anything yet, but this is how it builds. You add more and more players to your roster, and they grow together, and it appears as though this young man will be one of these players that you can build with for years to come. So, you know, to those that are naysayers, and you know, and some of them have been in the national media, well, like, just watch, because this is beginning to be real, and all this waiting and everything that we've been going through, I think is going to pay dividends in the near future.
It was a 1-on-0 workout that Fultz was a part of on Saturday, but his deal has been, one, he can score, averaging 23.2 points per game last season. That was first among all freshmen and 6th best in the country, and he can score at 3 different levels, all while being able to facilitate and distribute. And certainly when you look at the dynamic of the Sixers roster and where they might be deep in terms of talent, get some help in the backcourt, and you'd think that might make a nice match. And Bryan Colangelo really seems to think that the Sixers, from a talent, character, and schematic standpoint, they can find a fit.
Well, I think so. When you have guys with ball skills and the ability to make plays, and Fultz, when he was here, talked about, look, you know, he's comfortable either way, off the ball, with the ball, making plays. And when you make it difficult for the defense to cover multiple options, inside with Embiid, on the move with Simmons, and Covington that can fill it up, and has shown really, I think, beginning to show a very consistent level of outside shooting, the pace with which the Sixers play, to add a player of this caliber to that style, as you say, schematically, is going to be a tremendous thing for Coach Brown. And I think the Sixers are in position with this young core group to grow and progress and get better as this season, this coming 17-18 season, gets along, but over the course of the next months and years, because it takes time.
Soon we will know the identity of this year's #1 pick and who the Sixers will be adding. Important to note that there's a lot of talent at the top of this year's draft, but it was interesting in hearing Bryan Colangelo explain the motives behind the trade that culminated on Monday, that of all the studying done, and this may seem very intuitive and basic, but you do studies on analytics and projections and how players pan out. It's that #1 slot in the NBA draft that has the best odds of producing a bona fide potential franchise player, and it sounds like that's exactly what the Sixers are trying to get as they continue to fill out this core.
Again, deep draft, but this player has stood out among all these very talented players in the first 6 or 10, however you want to look at it, and it's true. You know, you get the #1 pick, and over the course of multiple drafts, there's the number of all-star games that the #1 pick has gone to as compared to the other picks 2 and on down. It's not even close. And then all NBA, you know, and players that can help you change the fortunes of your franchise, the franchise player. And it appears as though the Sixers are in a position tonight to garner that kind of talent.
Our run of show, we think, we hope, we expect for the immediate future is that after the pick is made, within a few moments, relatively short time after that, we're going to hear from Sixers President of Basketball Operations, Bryan Colangelo, as he meets with members of the media, which you may be able to see through the area behind the seats and the television set. Brett Brown is scheduled to talk as well, and you certainly, Tom, hard to not feel good for a guy like Brett Brown. You feel good for everyone involved in the organization, but certainly Brett, who's been out in front of it so frequently over the course of the last 4 years, here he is getting another key piece, you would figure, to what he's trying to create.
Well, for sure, and for a coach, you need players, and you need good players to be successful. You can have the greatest scheme, you can have the greatest ideas, but unless you have players that can go out there and with their abilities enact what you're trying to put forth, then it's all a moot point. And he's done a great job, I'm telling you. You know, I think he's going to be as good or better as the roster improves. And we've seen some of that with the strides the Sixers made last year. When you had a healthy Embiid, they went 10-5 in January. And I just think adding Ben Simmons and the #1 pick in the draft into the mix with all the other players we've talked a lot tonight earlier about the practice facility, how the players are getting better. Brian, I've said this so many times over the years, but individually, your players have to get better, and then collectively your group gets better, and then you get to compete, and then you learn from your mistakes, and that's, you know, in the long haul, if it's meant to be, that's how you begin to compete in the playoffs. You might get there, get knocked back a peg, know what it takes, make another step. I mean, it's rare for a team to get in the playoffs and just, this is a very young team, and they're going to be super talented, but you got young guys that are bound to have growing pains and learning pains,
Sure.
and that's where Brett Brown has been very good. He's very demanding, and yet at the same time you have to be a little bit understanding, and I firmly believe, and I've said this from the jump, he's got everything, and at his core he's very good at relationships and developing a bond with his players and building that trust where they know he's for them, and all these coaches where they're helping them improve on their craft and collectively, as I said, becoming better and trying to reach a level of where you're having success, but you're building on that success and trying to sustain success for many years to come.
We heard, if you were with us in the first 2 hours of our live stream, from several players currently on the roster, guys like Richaun Holmes, Nick Stauskas, Robert Covington, Elton Brand, who's taken on a consulting role in terms of player development with the Sixers. He stopped by as well. And one of the recurring themes was just how active this place has been, really since the immediate weeks after the regular season ended. And that's great to hear that some guys currently on the roster have been in the building, but as you've been here since the calendar flipped from May to June, there have been so many prospects, over 50 prospects as parts of group workouts or solo workouts. In addition to Fultz, there was De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. So the Sixers front office have really left no stone unturned. They've traveled across the country to agency-related pro days. So you got to figure that whatever comes the Sixers' way, mostly beyond that first pick, they're going to be well prepared.
Absolutely. And one thing is talent evaluators, you know, it's a whole different thing when you get a young man in your gym. And people say that all the time when you acquire a player in a trade. You're like, whoa, I didn't know he did this. You know, we've seen him for years and seen him in different scenarios, but until you get a player and you're able to look him in the eyes and find out what he's all about, you almost invariably learn something more about a player. And the other thing I'll say with bringing in so many players, there's also very few times where you can work a player out, have them in your gym, and maybe it's not for a draft pick this year, but maybe in 4 years that young player becomes a free agent and you're like, man, I really like, didn't work out, we couldn't draft him, or so he went to such and such team. But you develop a bit of a rapport with the player, and down the road, who's to say that he ends up not becoming part of your friend? That could happen. So they're going to do their due diligence. They're totally prepared. And I think you saw the workouts, it was very easy to discern, okay, these guys are for potentially the third, as it then turned out the #1 pick, and this group of players are for potential second-round picks. I mean, that was fairly obvious, but no, they did a great job. You know, as we said, a lot of players came through, big guys, wing players, point guards. You saw a lot of different talent on display.
For the Sixers, this will be the 4th time in franchise history that the team has picked #1 overall. We, of course, saw it last year with Ben Simmons in 2016. As we take a look at our draft headquarters here at the 76ers training complex in Camden, New Jersey. They also had the #1 pick in 1996. Who was that? Who was that? Oh, yeah, look to the upper right of your screen. There's his number 3, Allen Iverson. And Doug Collins, the first #1 overall pick in Sixers franchise history back in 1973. So whomever the pick is tonight, joining some potentially elite company.
Will be less vague in about 20 minutes.
Yes, and you're like, elite company, and you start to think Simmons, because that's, everyone's saying he's going to be potentially elite. But that also adds to the excitement, too, that Ben Simmons hasn't played an NBA regular season game yet. We saw a lot of promise in the Summer League for certain, but he's been working hard.
It just occurred to me. I think the fact that the top two picks, this might take a little pressure off Ben, I think. And then conversely, Simmons playing will take a little bit of pressure off this year's #1 pick. You know what I'm saying? Because they're both out there. And Elton Brand, who was the #1 pick, talked about what it's like, and there's a little bit of pressure that comes with being that pick because you're being compared to everybody else. So that might be make it a little bit easier. They go through it together because they'll be both playing for the first time, and I think that's one little nuance maybe that we haven't thought about, but I think that's going to play itself out during their first year.
For fans who might fantasize and think, what is Ben Simmons ultimately going to be? I mean, he is a load of a physical specimen who's so athletic, we know that. He can drive, but facilitating, that seems to be one of his most gifted assets, if not his most. And it was really encouraging to hear Bryan Colangelo say on Monday that whoever the Sixers choose, he's really confident that this player is going to fit alongside Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the day, especially with the way the Sixers play and they pass it on the perimeter, they were #1 in passes in the NBA this year.
Yes, by wide margin, yeah.
Yeah, so they move the ball, and, you know, whomever grabs it and brings it up, that's not, you know, I don't think it bears the importance of maybe it did back when Maurice Cheeks was the point guard or when John Stockton was the point guard in Utah. Any number of players are involved in pick and rolls on any given half-court sequence, and the Sixers move the ball around so much and try to get the defense to slide, you know, side to side, shifting, that whomever Ben plays alongside is, as long as you're a playmaker and, you know, the mantra, not just here, but with the Spurs and elsewhere, that good to great, where you're passing up good shots to try to get an even better shot, and that's woven into the fabric of your offensive concepts. I think both Ben Simmons and the #1 pick are going to be able to do that because that's how the Sixers play. And Simmons, by, you know, all intents and purposes, is a pass-first type of player.
We have the NBA TV feed of the draft on behind us in a commercial break right now, but it's just, and this may sound hokey and cliched, but it is really cool, especially after speaking with guys like Stauskas and Holmes and Elton Brand, just how, and this may sound like a very obvious statement, how momentous this night is for them. We saw shots of the tables with the prospects and their families, and things change immediately, and I think across the board, Elton Brand mentioned this, and based on a lot of the players that came through here the last 3 weeks that we heard from and had a chance to sit down and speak with, they are humble guys. They seem mature and ready to take this next step.
Well, and I think comportment and character, those are all things that are crucial to chemistry and having a young player that can come into your mix and try to meld in and bring his talents to your group. So there's no doubt that's a very important element of player evaluation, and, you know, it's important for a young player to have humility and realize that they have to take coaching. When you see the best players in the NBA, like LeBron, like Kevin Durant, like Stephen Curry, taking constructive criticism from their coach, I think these young players realize that that's part of it. And look, they're young. They still need to work on their game. No 19-year-old player has it all figured out. They're going to need to have that kind of attitude to become the best version of themselves.
Within the next 5 or 10 minutes, we expect that whomever the Sixers pick will be able to sport this very nice New Era cap up on the dais as they go to shake the hand of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Stay with us. We cannot announce anything until it is, of course, official. What we're going to do right now is play you a little bit of a media availability with Markelle Fultz, projected to go at the top of this year's draft. And if there is anything breaking and developing, we will cut out of that and get right back to you. So here's Markelle Fultz.
How you guys doing? Good. So how did it go, Markelle? It was great. I mean, I came in here, got some shots up, which I love to do every time I get a chance to step in the gym and put some work in. I love it. So.
What do you think makes you like the best player available on this draft?
First of all, I think how I carry myself as a player and as a young man, just being humble, and I think I'm just a hard worker, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to help any team I go to win. So.
Okay, is this a tough day? You drive all the way up here and then
boom, just run out onto the court and do whatever. Was that tough getting out of a car and just trying to have to perform for these guys?
Not really. I mean, it's almost like AAU. Driving out of town to wherever you're going and going to play some AAU games. So like I said, it's something I love to do, and any chance I get an opportunity to do it, I'm gonna be excited. So.
How long did it take you to get here from Maryland?
Not that long. Probably I was asleep pretty much the whole way. But I mean, I come to Philly a lot, so probably I think 3 hours, something like that. So not too far.
What's the latest with the knee? And if you can, maybe explain to us what was wrong with it, because we never really got a good explanation. How's it feel now?
Yeah, my knee is great, as you can see. I'm jumping pretty high and everything like that. And it was just a situation where I had some stuff going on with my knee. I really don't want to address it, but I mean, it was what was best for me as a player, so that's what I did.
And it's all fully recovered now. You good?
Yep.
Okay.
What do you make of all these swirling, swapping picks with Boston Sixers, and you're in the middle of all of this?
I really don't pay a lot of attention to it. I mean, I'm blessed enough. I pray every night before I go to sleep, and I let God take care of it. Really, I wake up every morning and get ready to go to the gym. I don't really pay attention to everything that's going on, but I'm truly blessed to be in this position, really, and wherever happens, I'm looking forward to taking my talents to wherever I go. So.
As someone who wasn't heavily recruited out of high school, what do you make of all this fanfare surrounding you being the #1 pick in the draft? Did you ever think you would really be at this point in your career?
It was a dream I had since I was a young kid, but like I said, it just shows how much hard work I put in and how dedicated I am to do what I do. I set goals for myself and I go out there and achieve them. So.
And what was the thought of rocking the Sixers cap coming into the building?
Pretty cool. I mean, like I said, I come to Philly a lot and just showing the love for the city. I mean, I'm out here, want to show love, so that's all it was.
So no one gave you that hat? Like the Sixers didn't give it to you? You already had it?
Yeah, I had a Philly hat.
Oh, okay. All right. And what would it be like for you to play here? I mean, like you said, it's a couple hours away. You come to Philly a lot. What would it be like to be a Sixer?
I think it'd be pretty cool just being with the young team. I think the upside of it would be crazy. And like I said, I'm close to home, so a lot of my fans can come out and just show love. And this city has great fans, so I think it would be true.
How many team hats do you have?
I don't know. I have a lot of hats at home, so I mean, it was just one I picked out. So.
Joel posted a photo earlier on Instagram with your nameplate there. I mean, what did it mean to you to see that, and what do you think about the players here wanting it?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, me and him been talking before when I was in college. Just building a relationship. I mean, he's a cool guy. Just give me tips and pointers, and he's pretty funny. So when I seen that, I mean, it was just pretty cool and pretty funny. So I'm pretty happy that the players here want me to come here. So.
Markel, when you were here in April, the Sixers got blown out by the Brooklyn Nets. Was there anything you saw in that game that you were like, I can be like a good addition for this team?
I mean, not really. I mean, I saw the team still fighting hard, and the most important thing was the fans in the building were still there no matter what. I think that was big, and of course, I mean, being out there, I could see myself, imagine myself on the court, helping the team out for sure. That's what I do every game I watch. I just think about if I was on that team, what could happen. So
how would you play with a 6'10" point guard like Ben Simmons?
Just like I play with great players all the time, so whatever he needs me to do, if I'm running the floor trying to score the ball, or if I'm setting the screen for him or getting it and giving it back, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm gonna be a great teammate. If that's me on the bench clapping for him, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. So.
How do you think your skill set would fit with their system?
I think it'd be great. I mean, get up and down, and they're big on defense. So I think the tools I have to be a defensive player, I think that'll help them get out in transition. I'm a pretty good shot blocker for a point guard, so I think helping them with that, I mean, everything would pretty much help that.
When did this all arrangement to come tonight, when did that take place?
It was about a 2-day process. I mean, yesterday and night before, I mean, my mom and my trainer pretty much handled it. I just wake up and go where they tell me to go. So, I mean, waking up and they said we got to go to Philly, I was just like, okay, I'm ready for it. So, I think it was like yesterday and the day before that, I think they were deciding where we was going to go next, like after the Laker workout. And that's just where we decided to go. So.
How long will you spend in Philadelphia, and what is the rest of your trip going to consist of?
I'm definitely going to go get some cheesesteak from somewhere. You know, I got to get a cheesesteak. I'm big on that.
Do you know what spot?
I've been to Larry's a couple times. I think it's some other good spots around here, and that's pretty much better than that. But I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna leave it up to my trainer, my mom, to pick out a good spot. But I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. I live not too far away, so it's just a quick ride home. So.
I know you say you try not to pay attention to everything that's happened the last few days. But what has the last few days been like as far as the seesaw, Boston here? And then the draft next week.
It's been crazy, man. Just knowing that the draft is a couple days away, it's been unbelievable. I mean, it's been a blessing. Like I said, a dream I always had, and I'm just anxious to get to that day and just get it over with, so I can know where I'm going and put full invest into whatever team I'm going to.
So, are you going to meet with, like, have a meeting with Brian, Brett Brown? you know, have dinner. There was a report that you were going to go to dinner with them as well.
I'm not sure. Like I said, I just got off the court, and I'm not sure where I'm doing that. So if that happens, I guess so. So I'm open for anything. So.
Did you have to take a physical with them, or did they get the results of your physical?
They just pretty much got. I mean, I did some stuff in there with the doctors, but I'm pretty sure they getting everything situated with that. So.
Thanks, Markel.
Yep.
Thanks,
Markel. Thanks. Good luck.
Projected at #1 pick, Markel Fultz speaking to members of the local media Saturday here at the Sixers training complex, where he conducted a very brief workout. Sixers have the #1 overall pick. What are they going to do with it? We will find out in a matter of minutes. Tom McGinnis, we've been stretching this out. We have been going, and we're just about at that time.
No, it's exciting. As we speak, Adam Silver has opened up the draft coverage from Barclays Center. And big night for the Sixers, big night for the NBA, and obviously a huge night for these young players that are going to realize their lifelong dream.
If you're just tuning into our live stream, we'll have a press conference with Bryan Colangelo shortly after the selection is made. And also we're expecting to hear from Sixers head coach Brett Brown, both of whom will, by the end of tonight, have the opportunity not just via the first overall pick, but also 4 selections in the second round to add to this team's young, budding core. For the Sixers, there's already young talent there in terms of Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric. Tonight, maybe they have a chance to add some more balance to the roster. They've been looking for some scoring. They've been looking for some shooting. We will find out if that is indeed the case. And the trade made on Monday really set this whole thing in motion. Lives will change. And I don't know, just listening to Markel Fultz, you can hear from some of these prospects, they're kind of just looking forward to get this night here and over with.
Well, it's an exciting time in their lives, you know, like everything they've gone through. And I hope they've, you know, taken it in, and you know, it's huge. So now the Sixers are on the clock. They have 5 minutes with which to take the pick, and this is something that's been encouraged both here inside the practice facility, but also on the business side for these young employees. Brian, you've been with this for a while. That this is an exciting time for the organization, and right now, as they're about ready to take this first pick and make it a player that they're going to add to the mix. I mean, the rise is a very enjoyable. It's going to be fun for a lot of people. That's why the excitement is around Philadelphia. It's palpable. You can see it in so many different forums, if you will, parts of town, through so many different people that are not even huge sports fans that are definitely caught up with it. And it comes down to this pick right here. And you know, there's certain things, if you can't enjoy this, well, then maybe you ought to look elsewhere for your entertainment, because this is pretty good stuff as far as the Sixers are concerned.
We have the media seated behind us, back in an area where you can't see up and on the second level. That is the boardroom here at the Sixers training complex that has been converted into the very packed war room. That's kind of the vantage point that you would get if you were standing up on the balcony, as Bryan Colangelo and Brett Brown seated right next to each other, members of the ownership group, Josh Harris, David Blitzer, amongst them up there, Jerry Colangelo coming into town for the Sixers over the last couple days, scouts. And really after the first pick is made, that's when the activity you expect to really see begin to intensify.
Well, I would think so. Again, I think there's going to be some surprises. The Sixers took, at least for now, their element of surprise, you know, by this trade that was consummated on Monday, and they secured the best position in the draft. So I mean, there could be things that happen, but I think some things are going to go down tonight across the NBA. They're going to surprise some people. And again, Bryan Colangelo, 2-time NBA Executive of the Year, running the Sixers draft room. But how about having Jerry Colangelo in the room too? You know what I mean? There's not too many better resumes currently in the NBA than Mr. Jerry Colangelo. That's pretty cool too. So it's a great night. They've done so much homework, and for them, I'm sure they're excited to get this underway.
It's amazing. Had a report from the ground in New York City earlier today that on the 9 o'clock New Jersey Transit train that arrived into Penn Station, if you've taken that route before on the Northeast Corridor, when the train pulls into Penn Station, it goes under the tunnel. A "Trust the Process" chant broke out on the train at 9 o'clock this morning. So I was
going to say, who's taking New Jersey Transit? I mean, it's a great mode of transportation, but I see a bunch of different folks on the train.
But this is,
right.
you know,
cool.
you feel good for the fan base out there that gets to experience this moment of excitement, and for the Sixers franchise as well. And how about Bryan Colangelo, the third time that he's picking #1 overall? Right. He had it in 2006 with the Raptors, Andre Bargnani, and then last year with Ben Simmons here with the Sixers.
No, Brian's going to do a great job. He has been doing a tremendous job. I mean, I think to have our fortunes.
I think we've got it, Tom. Hold on one sec. We will see on the different feeds Adam Silver coming out. So it is indeed Markelle Fultz out of Washington, 23.2 points per game. We could see on the television monitor. He looked up to the sky, kind of kissed and pointed upwards, surrounded by family, mentors. Lorenzo Romar, his coach at Washington, is there as well. So here we can now get the name out there and put into context. Markelle Fultz, Tom, how good is that?
I'm telling you, I think he's got a chance to be special, and that's why the Sixers went out and made this deal. And you know, we were prohibited, if you will, from being able to talk about Markelle as a 76ers, but now it's official. You got a talent that's coming to Philadelphia, and it's a lot to be excited about.
Markelle Fultz, a man that could score on all 3 levels for Washington last season. As you can see on the drive, on the jump, he had a very solid 3-point shooting percentage at over 40% last year, and he can facilitate, too, a dual threat option for the 76ers out of the backcourt. And we will read now this statement from 76ers managing general partner Josh Harris that we just received. I'm excited for our fans and for the 76ers organization that we were able to select the top player in the NBA draft, Markelle Fultz, tonight. By adding a player of Markelle's caliber to our promising roster, we believe we're incredibly well positioned for the future. This is a tremendous night for the Sixers and our great fans. It would be tough to argue with that statement.
That's great. No, it's cool. And watching those highlights, the one thing, again, there's multiple levels of his offensive repertoire, but he has there was the one baseline shot where he has the ability to do like the NBA fade, and the players are so athletic, they're so tall. You know, you have to be able to adjust your game. Even the great Michael Jordan, toward the end of his career, shot of a lot of his shots going away from the basket, and Fultz is able to make that adjustment. And I don't know if he's a pure shooter or this, but he appears at, as you say, 23 points a game to be a very competent scorer, and it'll be exciting to see how that translates to the NBA and to the Sixers.
We heard Bryan Colangelo say we want matches on multiple fronts. We want it from a talent standpoint, and clearly based upon the move the Sixers made, they felt the talent part was there because, as Elton Brand said, you're not winning in this league unless you have talent. There's also the schematic fit. You look at the Sixers roster, and no doubt about it, there is a need for a player of Fultz's ilk. And then from a character makeup, human being standpoint, Fultz seems to fit that package as well.
He does. He's actually addressing the coverage on ESPN right now, and I think he does. You know, I think he's got a humble nature and the ability. First of all, I think the most important thing, obviously character, but is confidence. You know, you're not going to succeed at this level without the utmost of confidence in your own ability, and that comes with a humble enough attitude to know you have to improve in your game. But you know, welcome to the moment, all right, because There you have 4 very talented young players in Dario, Joel, Ben Simmons, and now Markelle Fultz. But all these guys got here because they believe, and they're not going to be swayed off their position of knowing that they can play and excel at this level.
We'll be hearing from Sixers President of Basketball Operations, Bryan Colangelo, in just a few moments. And I thought he painted as good of a picture and sense of what the Sixers thought about Fultz without actually being able to state his name Monday in the press conference. But I thought one of the neatest parts of this whole development was seeing some of the players who turned out Saturday for his workout. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Robert Covington, they were all here, and it seems like there's a talent level there that they respect, that they know can help them as well.
No question. That was neat. There's no doubt for them to be on hand for his workout. They know what's at stake. They know what they're getting. You know, they've already, as Robert Covington was talking about earlier this evening, you know, they had already developed a bit of a rapport, albeit through conversation, probably some text messaging. But then to be here last Saturday and be together, Ben Simmons and Joel were here. Dario came a little bit later, but no, they're going to be together. There's going to be high expectations, and they're talented young players. They're going to be playing together for the first time. And it's going to be great to see how it all plays out.
Markelle Fultz, the 4th #1 pick in 76ers franchise history, taken off the board first tonight. And recapping some of his numbers for you, just to make sure that we have them for accuracy's sake. 23.2 points, just over 5.5 rebounds per game, just under 6 assists, 1.5 steals just about. He showed some commitment on the defensive end last year, had some great success with chase down blocks for the Washington Huskies as well. And it wasn't the easiest of circumstances for him to be in with Washington last year. He weathered it. I thought it was so cool to see him walk into the Sixers training complex with the black Sixers cap on Saturday. He seems to be a guy, having grown up in Prince George's County down in Maryland, who's familiar with the area. To hear fans who were like gathered outside chanting your name.
I honestly, Pete, I think that's a night we're going to look back on, because that was an exciting time, just as tonight is, as it becomes reality. But I really think it's going to be a segment in time, speaking of this week, Monday with the trade becoming official, last Saturday with Markelle coming here and working out, and tonight his selection. I think these are days that are going to be really something we look back on, and hopefully in years to come, with great fondness and recollection, because it's really an important phase, if you will, development-wise, for the Sixers.
We look up and we can see an area above the far practice court where Bryan Colangelo is conducting some media availabilities with Mark Schwartz of ESPN and Kristen Ledlow of NBA TV. And you get the vibe that they certainly felt that the timing was particularly right to make this type of move without having to mortgage the future, as Colangelo said. But you don't make a move like this, especially, I mean, Brian's been around quite some time. You got to pretty much know this is your guy and have a strong feeling to go in the way the Sixers did.
No, absolutely. And was that ball that was just taken?
Indeed it was, to the Los Angeles Lakers. So Lonzo Ball to the Lakers. We'll do our best to negotiate our conversation and give you real-time updates as well.
No, but that, you know, at a certain point, we talked about having 4 picks tonight. We talked about you might not be able to add all those players to your roster. Well, it's the same thing with #1 picks, and certain moves were made, and obviously prior to Brian getting here, you know, at a certain point, that's the time to strike. And I think he found the exact right moment with a player they felt comfortable, worthy of that move, clearly, obviously, and somebody that can help really jump the franchise forward and make great strides in the next couple, 3 years, and hopefully for many years to come.
When you think about like what Joel Embiid can do with a shooter surrounding him, a scorer, Ben Simmons, regardless of where he plays, obviously he can facilitate, but so can Fultz too. And that seems to be something about the dynamic that Bryan Colangelo wants to build. A team full of, in some ways, positionless at times, but also that can spread the ball around and really pass well.
Guys that can make plays, absolutely. I mean, when you watch playoff basketball, you know, it's so difficult to score offensively in crunch time in the postseason. So you have to have multiple options, and be flexible in how you attack. And I think Joel's going to be, he's going to have a tremendous year. Brett Brown talked about Embiid with many times his mind was going faster than his body just because he hadn't had the experience.
Right.
You know, he had some turnovers in late game situations because he knew what he wanted to do, but he was just flying a little too fast. And I think as he grows in experience, same with all these players. Again, they deserve, and again, I don't know if deserve is the right, but they are entitled. It's going to be part of. You only get better by making mistakes, really, in any facet of any life. And as a player, you know, you go out there and you try things and they don't go out your way, but then the next time, hopefully you gain benefit by that experience. And I think all these players, including Joel and Ben and Markelle, are going to go through that a little bit and in the end be much better for it.
All right, so we've rambled just a bit about the newest member of the Sixers, Markelle Fultz. Let's go to a player profile on the newest addition to Brett Brown and Bryan Colangelo's club. A look at Markelle Fultz, the #1 pick from the 2017 draft. If you check the bottom portion of your screen, we'll take a look at some of the tweets that are chirping in. Welcome to Philly at Markelle F. from the Sixers official accounts. And some of the players on the roster currently, some of whom we spoke with earlier, weighing in as well. Justin Anderson. That must be a compliment. Liddy Markelle Fultz.
Certainly, let's go.
Robert Covington. In some ways, unofficially welcoming Fultz to the crew Saturday. What a picture that was. I mean, you could feel it being around those guys right there when they took that picture, which you've probably seen at this point in time with Embiid, Simmons, Covington, and Fultz. Like quite a sharp-looking crew.
Right.
And you know what? We have Bryan Colangelo, Scott O'Neal, and Josh Harris coming in. And I think we are going to get ready to flip things over to the press conference podium as the 76ers Brain Trust, moments after making Markelle Fultz the #1 pick in this year's draft, heads to the podium. A happy Bryan Colangelo.
Absolutely. A crocodile was for Mike Tyson. You noticed that Zoe was really mellow, excited to be drafted. All of our is his hype man. He spoke it into existence, and I can't front again.
I would like to just open up with the comments surrounding the decision to move up, the decision to pick Markelle. Felt like this, I think I covered some of this the other day, but we felt like the value of moving from 3 to 1 was relevant in that we moved into a position to take what we think is the ideal fit for this roster amongst the draft prospects. Markelle is a tremendous athlete. He's a tremendous young man. We think he's going to fit the culture of this organization, what we're building. We think that filling in or fitting in with the core of young players that we're putting together, not only with what he represents as a human being, but what he represents as a basketball player, it just could not be a more ideal fit. So basketball-wise, he brings to the table great athleticism, He is multi-talented in terms of his offensive skill set. He gets to the basket, he penetrates, he's elusive, he can handle the ball. He's what you call your typical, prototypical combo guard, and a combo guard that can score the basketball in many ways, including shooting from the perimeter. So it's an opportunity that we feel, just basketball-wise, playing alongside Ben Simmons, playing alongside Joel Embiid, Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and others, many others, that it was the right player, the right piece to move this situation forward. So as a person and as a human being, you're talking about a young man that has displayed high character in every way. He's a grinder. He had to earn this opportunity to be selected #1. He wasn't always considered the best prospect, but he emerged and earned the right to be considered the best prospect. You're talking about a young man at the age of 18. He just turned 19 a few weeks back. You're talking about a young man that goes to the University of Washington, didn't have great team success, unfortunately. Part of that, may be personnel driven, part of that may be circumstantial, but, to do what he did at the level of the Pac-12 and to be able to, average 23 points a game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, you're talking again about, a great performance on the floor, a player that does so many different things, and we believe someone that's going to help make his teammates better. He's a facilitator, he's a playmaker, but he's also a scorer. And, could not be happier to be adding Markelle to this mix. So I'm going to open it up for a few questions, and I'd be happy to, stay for about 5, maybe 10 minutes max.
Brian.
Yep.
When was the first time you guys targeted Markelle? Were you on him at the beginning of the college season, even before that? When did he come into vision? From a scouting standpoint, I mean.
I think a lot of you know that someone that I brought into the organization when I first got here was Mark Eversley as VP of Player Personnel. I believe, through some of the postseason tournaments last year, where these players are on display, whether it's McDonald's or the brand Jordan, and some of the things that, these players more or less first come to light. You're aware of them, but you're not in a position to scout them other than at some of the, university events or at some of the international competitions. But not only did Markelle go and have, a pretty good stage with USA Basketball, but he emerged really as like a lead prospect that we thought at some of those games. So, I'm looking at a whole host of talented players last year, but Mark Eversley said, that guy, he's going to be the one. And he was right. And we feel like, again, a whole year of scouting has confirmed our thoughts and confirmed our decision. Again, looking at everything that he was able to do, not only prior to going to school, but then at a very high level of competition, following him through this process, getting to know him, getting down, deep in terms of, the evaluation of who he is, not only as a basketball player, but as a human being. He just checked all the boxes, and we feel very good that, that's when it started, years ago, but it's now coming to fruition today.
Defensively, what do you see from Fultz?
Well, he's got all the tools to be a very good defensive player. Most young players that come into the league need to learn the system that the coach is teaching, but learn what it takes to guard NBA basketball players. And again, I think we've got a defensive-minded coach who spends a lot of time talking and teaching and communicating what those objectives are. And I think he's going to fit in just fine with that group. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, if you're defending, you're going to stay on the court. And I think that most of our young guys will do everything they can to make that happen. And again, sometimes, you know, the offensive talent obviously is something that really weighs heavily in who's on the court. But, you know, we really do think Markelle could be a good two-way player. We just have to now get him to, you know, think that way and you know, begin to play that way all the time.
Brian, I know there was a lot of chatter during the day from different teams, and I'm sure there's teams that talk to you and ask you if you would move the pick. How many conversations, if any, did you have with the New York Knicks?
I would just, you know, there's a lot of discussion and debate about the New York Knicks today. Today is about the Philadelphia 76ers and our decision to select number 1. No, they did not call. Anybody else? Yep, Tom.
With Ben, how it would seem to be such a good compliment and work with Ben, whether Ben is whatever you want to call initiator in the backcourt, front court, whatever. How much did his versatility and able to play on the ball and off the ball mean?
I think it's, once again, an ideal fit for that reason. His ability to play both positions, either with the ball or without. You know, really it's going to come down to, in terms of coach choosing what lineups play and when, and who starts and who doesn't start. It's going to really be based on who's guarding who. I do believe, I've got a lot of faith in Ben that he's going to be able to guard multiple positions. Perhaps not every point guard in the league, but he'll be able to guard multiple positions. And I think that, you know, Markelle with his size, you know, he's going to be able to guard, you know, multiple positions. So you may see different lineups, and, you know, he may be at the 1, he may be at the 2. You know, again, a perfect combination guard that is going to fit in nicely with the rest of our people.
Brian, a lot of people that know this kid for a long time, they always talk about the chip that he has on his shoulder. Just in your conversations, could you sense that chip and how motivated he is to prove to the city he was worth it?
Yes. I think, you know, you realize that he's got the chip, but he doesn't go out of his way to show it. I think it's there's an inner drive there, and I think that that's something that makes him special. I think that, you know, he's motivated to prove people wrong, but not in a bad way. It's in a very positive way. So he's channeling that in a quiet, calm, you know, let me say secure way. I think he's pretty sure of who he is, and he's out to show the world, but he's not pounding his chest while doing that.
Brian, how much of a factor, how much did you take into consideration the fact that, you know, Washington was 9-22 last season with Markelle?
I think you look at every, you know, aspect of evaluating a prospect, you know, whether or not they're with a winning team and what the circumstances were, but we looked long and hard at what that was like, talked a lot to the coach and the coaching staff and others. Spoke to the coach, you know, since his dismissal. We've dug very deep on this, and we feel that regardless of whatever the performance of the University of Washington Huskies was last year, it's not relevant to who Markelle represents, you know, or what he represents as a player and how he's going to fit in and help us turn this program around.
A lot of the current players, and largely Embiid, have already been very welcoming to Fultz, and Embiid tweeted about him right after he was drafted. What do you want to see from this young culture, and what do you want to see them develop with some type of unity that they're already, you know, welcoming him with open arms?
You know, it's amazing. Sometimes, you know, something like this happens, and it sets off a little bit of a schism in the organization, or a team doesn't like, you know, perhaps what direction, you know, the management or coaching staff is going. But I think there's pretty good unanimity here that everybody is on the same page. I think that, you know, Markelle is a likable young man. He's a very good basketball player. Everyone knows what that level of talent is going to mean to us becoming a more competitive team. We are a team on the rise in so many different ways. We're an organization on the rise in so many ways. We've been here in June and the gym is full. There's 5-on-5 runs amongst the players. They're spending time together. It's really becoming an atmosphere that you can talk about culture and you can talk about, camaraderie, and you can talk about, just team-oriented feel that it's special. And we're going to keep building on that, and we're going to keep driving to get it perfect, and it's well on its way there. I think the fan base is responding and reacting, to the way this team not only plays on the court, but the way they present themselves to the public. It's a fun group. It's an attractive group. It's a marketable group. But they're good basketball players, and they're coming together at the right time. And we're going to try to make the right decisions to finish this project. And it is an ongoing building scenario here. So we're building. We're all about winning. But when you do it with people that you like, and when there's common beliefs and common vision, I think it makes it that much more special, and that's what we're seeing with this group. Okay, thank you very much. We have 4 picks in the second round, so it's going to be late before I get back out here. Please be patient, and appreciate y'all being here tonight. Thank you.
Sixers president of basketball operations Bryan Colangelo moments after the team makes Markelle Fultz pick number 1 in the 2017 NBA draft. And it was interesting, the final comment he had towards the end of that press conference was just to the overarching mission of this franchise, that it's all about winning and winning with people that we like. And certainly the Sixers, a lot to like about Markelle Fultz and what he was able to bring to the table. Recapping some of the comments that Colangelo said, he started things off by describing Markelle Fultz as an ideal pick. We'll take a pause in recapping Brian's remarks to bring you some of the tweets that have been coming in. Joel Embiid, according to Sixers fans, he says the new nickname is the Feds. Fultz, Embiid, Dario, Simmons. The Feds are coming.
See what the Feds have to say about that.
That's right.
The real Feds. That's cool. Leave it to Joe. That's great.
He is the ultimate engager, is he not?
So funny.
On the social media sphere. And this coming from Fultz, I'm excited to join this organization and give it my all. Short, sweet, but certainly a terrific sentiment. How about this, Tom McGinnis, coming in from One NovaCare Way in South Philadelphia from the Eagles, quarterback Carson Wentz. Welcome to Philly at Markelle F. You all about to do big things at Sixers.
Well, the second pick, right, for Wentz?
Yes, that's right.
That's great. I just listened to Brian, and having it all become reality is, you just feel great,
Yeah.
Really, and the fact that one of the questions was, how long had you been watching this guy? And he talked about Mark Eversley, and that's succinct. That's the guy. You know what I mean? And then they hone in, and then, as we've talked about, to be able to go out and get a move, transaction-wise, to get the number 1 pick, to get the guy you want. That doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean? That is a great thing. Growing up, Brian, there were so many things in the NBA draft. Red Auerbach would draft Larry Bird the year before. Red Auerbach would acquire, the whole trade with getting Parrish and the pick for McHale. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. But this move right here is one of those maneuvers that I think, again, going back, these are all heady days, exciting days for the Sixers. That move, this move has the potential to be something that, draft maneuver-wise, you look back on, hopefully after many successful years, wow, what a bold move, what a great move by the Sixers. And again, it has to all play out, but they got the guy they wanted by making that trade, and being in position to be able to do so.
And just thinking of the different layers of the stars aligning, you know, the Sixers, their record was much better than it was last year when they won the lottery, but to have those triggers from the Sacramento trade that got them to 5, then that got them to 3, then the Celtics being in a state where, yes, the Brooklyn pick fell into place from years ago, but Boston's trying to win an NBA championship right now and maybe not necessarily needing the toppest of top values, and they could go back to 3. By the way, they drafted Jason Tatum out of Duke, and Phoenix picked Justin Jackson from, Josh Jackson from Kansas. So the stars aligning perfectly, and I thought Brian left very little doubt that Fultz was the ideal player.
A lot of great players in this draft, as you've talked about, and some of the players that have already gone, but this player, Fultz, really stood out to the Sixers, and that's why they went ahead and made the bold move and brought him into the organization. And it's going to be an exciting summer, I think, as he gets out to Salt Lake City and to Las Vegas to be a part of the Summer League team, and for him to kind of get his feet wet in the NBA, get accustomed to the Sixers, their style, their culture, and then obviously when training camp begins in late September.
If you're with us, first of all, it is outstanding that you have decided to spend a portion of your very exciting draft night with us. We have a live press conference with Brett Brown coming momentarily. We expect to be able to bring that to you. Another thing that we kind of spoke in generalities before the pick was confirmed, that the Sixers felt like they could get a player at number 1 who would be able to fit with Ben Simmons. This guy's going to be able to fit with Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I think, you know, good players, potentially great players, have that ability to meld together, to be able to look for one another. It gives you great optionality, if you will, on offense, and the ability to switch on defense. And they're both open court players in terms of Simmons and Fultz. You know, there are times you're going to have to hunker down and play defense in the half court, lots of those times, but the ability to get into the passing lane, get some odd man runouts, they're going to be able to do some things, I think, at both ends of the court that make it exciting.
All right, here he comes. He's making his way out of his office just off the floor with a very purposeful and it seems like upbeat gait and stride in his step. The head coach of the 76ers, Brett Brown, is making his way towards the press conference podium. And this is a guy who will have the opportunity, you would presume this season, to coach 2 number 1 picks in their respective rookie years, and Ben Simmons and now Markelle Fultz. Brett is ascending the podium. He is sitting down. And let's switch the feed over right now.
Hello. Brett, you've been saying for a while that Ben Simmons is going to be your point guard. How does Markelle change your plans, if at all?
It really doesn't. You know, I think the thing you realize when you study Markelle's game is that he too has the ability to be a significant ball carrier. And, you know, the more that we see Ben play, we've had a fantastic month of June. We're excited to use him as the primary ball carrier. And I think that with Markelle, when you study what he did in college, you recognize very quickly that he has the ability to play that position and be one of the main ball distributors as well. And when I look at the combination of both Ben and Markelle, it's a real exciting challenge to have where you try to grow those 2 players and let them coexist and learn more about each other. And I think that the start of the season and training camp in the month of September is really going to be important for us to allow those guys to feel each other and the coaching staff to be able to, you know, truly see it on the court.
Brian said he is an ideal fit for this team. So, in your opinion, why is he an ideal fit?
Yeah. And we all, as the draft got closer, we were all on the same type of path where, you know, you get the 3rd pick and you think you know who you're going to draft, and then you hear, you know, the Lakers are going to take, you know, one of the people that we're looking at, and then you're studying different situations, and you travel all over the country and bring some people in here to study, And then late, the Celtics trade happened. And so the evolution for me, as you were studying the players, the study of Markelle Fultz really wasn't at a serious phase until very late. And when it got discussed and you realize there's a significant chance we may end up with the first player, let's sort of pivot out of it and study Markelle's game a lot more. The thing that I realized is that there was no other player that I saw that was a better fit for those two than Markelle. I think for a variety of reasons, when you look at his ability to shoot, when you look at his ability to create on a catch-go or off a live ball, certainly in an early offense, that he can coexist with Ben and Joel the easiest out of all of the people. When you thought there was a chance we could get Lonzo Ball, you studied him, and you realized, wow, that is a point guard. I think that we would have found a way to make that work, but I feel that with Markelle and his sort of variety of ball skills and positional skills, that you feel it a lot clearer that the fit can be, I think, a little bit more seamless. I think he's a perfect complement to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
Brett, what's left now? Like, as far as your roster moving forward, like what do you need on this roster? What do you want from on this roster come September? What still needs to be gotten that'll make you feel really good about this team for this year and maybe moving forward?
Right. The first two things that come to my mind in this order is those young guys need nurturing. They need veteran leadership. And to think that you're going to go into a season with a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, and Joel Embiid, as much as we love him and see how special he is, the reality is those three players have played a cumulative 31 NBA games. And there is going to be a level of patience from the coaching staff, from the city, from teammates that clearly we're all going to have to go through. And holding a locker room, growing those guys, helping them navigate NBA life and NBA games is a very powerful message when it comes from a player. And trying to identify veterans that have the ability to nurture and help those three especially is one of the main priorities. We will never go away from the need for shooters. When you look at Ben and you look at Joel and you look at Markelle, when you say what's the common denominator that on the court can help them succeed best, it's space. It's clear, it's space. And with that comment, if you can have a hybrid of both worlds, you look at veteran shooters, people that can come in and provide that type of leadership. And Brian and I have had hours of discussion leading up to this on what the next step is in regards to the formation of the team and free agents. I know he has shared with you the owner's plan and hence our path, that there is still a large part of this growth that will happen organically and not force-fed. And so somewhere out there, without being reckless, and the formation of some of those qualities that we're looking for to make up the rest of the team, that will be the next step.
Brett, you've talked in the past about the need for your point guard to display a certain level of toughness to thrive at this level. Did you see that at all, or any indication from that in what you saw from Markelle in college? And if so, or if not, do you think it'll take to give him that edge?
Right. I think when you listen to the marketplace and, all the pundits say these are his strengths, these are his weaknesses, one of the weaknesses was did he bring it every night defensively? Did he have that killer instinct? The thing that impressed me as much as anything when we had him here and you're speaking to his mom and you're speaking to a coach that had been with him almost all of his life, and when you dig into other coaches that coached against him, and most importantly, when you sit down and talk to Markelle, For me, I learn the most when I can sit down in a room all by myself with the player and just talk. And the conversation goes where the conversation goes. You take that experience, you weigh it up with all the intel that we now have available to us, and it points back to a high-character person. I think if you take a high-character person and you take an athlete, you have the foundation to coach him to be a elite defender. I think that down deep, he understands the knock against him. And I believe that when we get him with our program, he understands how we see the world here, that it's going to be an evolution, no doubt, but it's a willing defensive player, and it's a willing athlete, a gifted athlete, under a roof of a, I think, quality person. And I think those types of qualities let you have a far better chance to mold him into the type of defensive player we need here.
What have you thought about the way that the current players have been welcoming Markelle for days before he was even drafted?
I love it. And you know, how many times would you sort of see in an NBA city, an NBA program where, you know, a draft pick comes in at 7 at night, he's a little bit late, and on the sideline, not only by their own choice, you look over and you see, you know, Robert Covington and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. If everybody here could have seen the month of June that we're at the end of it, seeing our players, some of when you came in and saw the workouts, this gym was alive. It's the first time we've been able to tap into this building over the summer. And I feel that when you look at our guys and you look at the response that they have given to Markelle, it's incredibly impressive and I think reflective of sort of some youthful enthusiasm and truly how excited they are to include him into our team.
Over the years, you've said when you've envisioned this franchise, where it's going to be, when they get this facility built, when you get the players in place, when you have all these things in the fold, now you have one more piece to that puzzle. And I'm wondering now what's going through your mind about what's going to be with this franchise, what's going to be with this team, and how you're going to take it to the next level.
I think you go back to when we all met in my first year and you look at where we were and where we are. If we all, you know, take a deep breath and look at how we got to 5 to 3 to 1, I mean, the story and the pieces behind that evolution tell a little bit of the story that from the question that you just asked me. And I think that we're now at a place where you can actually touch people and positionally feel that we're balanced in the people that we're touching and how we hope to build the program. I think it gives you far greater clarity of what those pieces need around them to let them sort of have a best chance of playing excellent basketball. When I sit in a room with Brian Colangelo and we look at a depth chart and you're looking at a board and so much of our conversation goes around, as we build this team, who do we least want to affect? Because if you bring in the wrong position or the wrong type of player, you can affect people like Timi Luwawu, who is still a part of this growth mix. And so where we were and where we are and the pieces, the real people that you can actually touch, and especially the 3 people that we're talking mostly about now, in Embiid and Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, the city has to feel fantastic. I know the organization does.
Did you have any sense that this trade with Boston was coming? If you did, when did it start to get on your radar, and what was your initial reaction to it?
I mean, there is so much surface talk that has been had always. This is my 17th NBA draft. And you learn through all of those things that you have to sort of determine what's noise, what's calculated messaging trying to disrupt the marketplace, and what's real. And because this, in my mind, and I suppose most people's mind, was what we would maybe put into like blockbuster verbiage, that you were cautious. You really weren't sure what bucket that could have fallen into, reality or just verbiage or noise. As it started to play out, you realized it did have some legs. And so always, you know, you're playing the game of why would the Celtics do this? What would be in it for us? You know, you start dreaming a little bit about where people would fit in. And I think really only in the last, you know, probably 48 hours. I mean, we were on a plane working out Josh Jackson. We learned at the last moment that he would see us. And so 5 or 6 of us got on a plane and, you know, flew to Sacramento to study him more. We were very interested in him. And that was late. And so this news with the Celtics did come late. There were conversations that led up to it. And when it finally became a reality, I applaud Brian in the execution of it to get it over the line.
Brett, I know after the draft lottery, Josh was talking and he thanked Sam Hinkie publicly. Just what has your conversation been like since the draft lottery? Have you had any conversations with Sam?
Just a random text, basically saying thank you. And, you know, I think organizationally, we really haven't missed a beat. The volume of phone calls that I have been on in my 4 years, they're like every Monday almost, you know, you're on a conference call with the owners and the people involved. And we've tried to be so meticulously responsible of growing this patiently. And Sam was excellent at what he did. And I think that Brian took that work and brought it forward. And, you know, you can't help but go back and recognize how we arrived at the picks that we had this year. And then, like I say, I think that you have to step back and really acknowledge the great work that Brian did getting it over the line. You know, I think the draft picks that Brian has made with Luwawu and Korkmaz, with Furkan Korkmaz, was in here for, you know, 8 days. We're really excited about him. But, you know, you can't dismiss the position that the club and Sam helped us put us in to get to this level.
Brett, how close do you feel that you're getting, like, there? Like, we're here now. You have a formidable team, and still have, you know, assets to play with. How close are you to being like it's just basketball now, as opposed to years past where you were waiting for this and you were waiting for players?
I feel a little bit closer. I'm still of the mindset, and you probably know I would say this, the adamance and the importance that I place on building a culture still, like, is ever present. And I think that we're a lot closer, Bob, because you can touch people and you can look at people. So for that reason, I arrived tonight thinking we're a lot further along than we have ever been, clearly. The reality of the youth is always from a head coaching perspective, and it's your backcourt youth is real. You're going to have to be patient and learn how to get through some stuff there. But the excitement that the city should feel and the acknowledgement that I completely make in regards to our team has pieces now that are young and pliable, and we got variety and versatility. We are way further along. It doesn't diminish when you say it's just basketball. For me, it's still the underbelly that sets programs apart. There's a cultural aspect of how you lift weights, of how you go watch videotape, of how you interact with teammates, all those types of things that are ever present. And so trying to morph these 20-year-olds and still never letting that belief go makes it a little bit more than just basketball. But we got a lot more to work with than we used to have.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
As always, excellent to hear from the head coach of the 76ers, Brett Brown, who amazingly is getting ready for season number 5 on the Sixers sideline. Crazy to think that that amount of time has passed so quickly. And Tom McGinnis, he made reference to the long journey that he has been on, the franchise has been on since he's been here. But one of his parting phrases and comments was that he does feel that things are getting closer. Still a lot of the underbelly that needs to be built, but he does feel the Sixers, with this addition of Markelle Fultz, getting closer.
Well, and as he said, you know, now you can touch players, you can grab players. It's almost like how we all felt about Dario. We heard so much about Dario for 2 years, going back to draft night, what, 3 years ago? And then Dario came, you're like, that's Dario, you know what I mean? And what his point is that now you got bodies, talented young players, and Fultz and Simmons and Embiid and Dario and Covington and TJ and on, Jaleel and Holmes and Stauskas and Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, guys that you can begin to shape your franchise around. And if I've forgotten anybody, help me out. And the other point that was raised by Bob Cooney from the Daily News and the Inquirer, you're getting closer to the point where it's just basketball. And Brett Brown's a coach, he's a teacher. It's like, yes. So personnel-wise, you've been looking for this positionally balanced roster and all these different pieces to fall into place. And Brett Brown kind of laid out that, you know, you might need a veteran player to come in and help to show the way a little bit and lend some expertise in terms of both playing and in the locker room and with these young players. But to narrow it down and boil it down to it's just basketball, well, that's where it starts. You know, I mean, you need everything that I just talked about, but that's, you know, that's when there's a lot of maturation process and a lot of growth that takes place among a basketball team. And, you know, by way of one example, you go back to the beginning of last year in November at the Center, Sixers played Cleveland toe-to-toe. And what happened? In the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it was, they had 5 straight turnovers. Right. And that's part of the maturation process that I speak of in a basketball. And that gets back to the point that I mentioned earlier. There's going to be, you know, a period of growth where, you know, guys are going to turn the ball over. You're not going to get a good shot. You're going to miss an assignment on defense. And that's part of it. So it being just basketball, as it was phrased, and Bob's a great basketball guy himself, but there's a lot of basketball to be played and to be taught and for these players to learn together and be there. They've already got the machinations, if you will, building the clay together. It sounds like that's already afoot, if you will, even with Markelle in these early stages. But to grow together as a team is going to be that too is going to be a process.
Yeah, and it was a question that Brett got right off the bat. You know, does having Markelle Fultz, might have been the first question, change your plans to use Ben Simmons as a primary ball handler or initiator? And again, this speaks to the whole idea of Fultz being able to do multiple things, and that it doesn't seem like in his mind it's going to alter things too much, but the training camp, the preseason, that'll be the time where it's used to figure those sort of things out.
As Brian pointed out too, he's a combo guard. You know, I don't know that you can just put Fultz in, you know, one box and say, oh, he's a true point guard. And again, I think it's the league plays offense differently than it did so many years ago, where it was a half-court game and you brought it up and you got into a set, and the set was a lot of times isolation. To borrow from basketball parlance, 2 players were lifted out, and then you played, you know, a 2-man game. And you know, it's changed with the movement and the fluidity of the offense, where you have multiple ball handlers, and that true classic point guard is not necessarily exactly what it comes down to.
Getting you caught up to speed best we can, if you have not been tuned into the other aspects of the draft. So Markelle Fultz, number 1, Lonzo Ball, number 2 to the Lakers. And then number 3 was Jason Tatum from Duke to the Celtics. Number 4, it was Josh Jackson. Interesting tidbit about Jackson there with the Sixers. Yeah. He went to the Phoenix Suns, Fox to the Sacramento Kings, and also Jonathan Isaac to the Magic. The Knicks picked up Frank Ntilikina, and before that it was the Timberwolves, who I believe made a trade with the Chicago Bulls, taking Lauri Markkanen out of Arizona.
So if that trade, you know, is consummated, the Bulls get 3 young players, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and Markkanen, and that changes the playoff picture in the East.
Sure does.
You know, you got to figure Atlanta doesn't have Dwight Howard. Budenholzer's done a tremendous job. They may not be out of the mix in terms of the top 8, but they might. If Indiana makes a move with Paul George, that's another playoff team, or certainly a team that's right up there that may not be in the top 8. So you're talking conceivably about 3 playoff positions, and I realize the Bulls, well, they didn't make it, right? But they're...
No, they had that series with the Celtics.
Right,
yes, that's right, yes.
Okay, so there's potentially 3 playoff spots, and that happens all the time where a young team gets in there, and cross your fingers, but that, you know, some of that movement conceivably, team-wise, Eastern Conference playoff picture-wise, and it's still early. But that might, do you know what I mean? Some things have to fall in place.
I keep trying.
Like the #1 pick, Bolts to the Sixers.
Still having trouble, Tom. I tried to casually put my arm on this armrest, and then But you know what? It's funny because
we've the late night talk show. You better get this figured out.
I'm just trying to get the sipping of the water out of the mug thing down.
Better eat that cookie too.
Well, you know what? Why don't we take this one? Look at this. This is very nice.
From Holly Norton.
That's right.
She's from Coatesville. She's the girlfriend of Aaron Rush, right? That's
right.
From our staff, a great high school referee and college referee in our area, and she provided us. She's trying to get a little something going in that area of catering, all that. She's got a good thing going. That was, you can see mine aren't there anymore. I had 2.
Need that sugar rush soon, but I think it's funny because Brian Colanzo even alluded to this a little bit during his media availability on Monday, that it's like, you know what, if the Sixers were healthy, maybe they could have been kind of in that playoff conversation. So you add a player like Fultz, and again, 19 years old, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but you think about the floor spacing dynamic, which, I mean, that is one of the top 3 credos for Brett Brown. And then, okay, maybe you make some smart moves in free agency and you can start to see the pieces of the puzzle coalesce and come together.
Right. Well, I actually thought you were going to go a different way with Brian's comment with the health. If Joel stays healthy and plays, the Sixers might not win 28 games, they might win 35 games, 37 games. And this doesn't happen. You're not moving from 12 to 1. And there, again, a lot of things took place in terms of putting the Sixers in this position, and obviously the acquiring of, draft picks in previous trades became a huge part of this. But you're right, like spacing and having the right style of play, and the Sixers have to shoot the ball better. That's the offense is great. The ball movement, again, they had the most passes in the NBA. But in the end, you got to put the ball in the basket. They need to shoot a higher percentage overall from the field and a higher percentage from 3. And I think in Fultz, you got a guy who's, as you said, can score in multiple ways and has shown the ability to shoot from range. And it'll be an adjustment to the NBA line. But that's part of that. And you got Embiid, who has the ability, and I think is going to really get better in his back to the basket game, if you will, on offense. But he's a guy who can face up. We talked about Fultz and Saturday night, and Coach Brown mentioned, here after 7. Well, while we were waiting, Joel Embiid, I think it already worked out on Saturday. So he was on the floor in basically like slides or shower shoes, whatever you want to call them. But he was shooting free throws. And, totally unofficial count, but he went like 58 for 60. I don't know exactly how many
Not that
he
anyone was
shot.
paying close attention.
I know he only missed 2. He could have shot 40, I'm not sure. And Brandon Williams, the assistant general manager, who does a great job with the 87ers as their general manager, was kind of visiting with Joel and rebounding for him, and they were conversing. So Embiid, was just literally casually shooting free throws, and he went somewhere in that area of missing 2 free throws in, I don't know how many shot, but it was definitely not 10. It was 40, 50, 60 free throws. And that's why I say he's not your typical throwback back to the basket guy, although with his size and his ball skills, I think he has that to his game, but he can definitely shoot that basketball. In fact, later, he walked to half court. Now, it's not the first time he's done this. It was at this basket right here. The basket was back there, turned his back to the basket, one-handed, flipped it in backwards, First try, swish.
Well, it's, you know, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about how sometimes being a part of the rise, and I want to credit Tom McGinnis with maybe being the first person tonight to utilize that buzzword in the Tide.
But then Brian Colangelo used it too.
Both of them. That is being insane.
One of my only faux pas when we were with Mark Schwartz, I said, now that's the inside stuff. And then when Kristen Ludlow said she's actually on the inside stuff. That was, you know what I mean?
You know, listen, in the line of fire here
you get a
on this
reporter
live
who has the
stream.
skinny inside info. You kind of throw that in there. Mark Schwartz has been around for 27 years on ESPN, but no, it is, and this is you have to enjoy this. You know what I mean? And hopefully it'll be the type of season that can produce a playoff opportunity, and then, like I said, then you come at it again. You know, Jerry Sloan, the old Utah coach, had a great line. Even when they made the finals twice in a row, come October, you got to start all over again.
Right.
Even if you win the championship, you got to start. Every season is separate and apart. You can have almost the identical team, but there's a new dynamic to the team because of what went on the year before. And this is an exciting time for everybody, and you know, for employees and fans alike. I think it's important to enjoy it and appreciate what we're going to get to see over the next weeks, months, and years to come.
Updating you on the draft. Pick number 9 to the Dallas Mavericks, Dennis Smith Jr., the combo guard. And let's see, the Sacramento Kings just got up for pick number 2 in the first round of the top 10. There's a tweet there. That's probably getting way too much of Brian Seltzer on this live stream. And then you got to read tweets from the guy. But we're looking more at the transcript from Markelle Fultz up in New York City and some of his commentary and quotes. And let's see if we can find one that stands out. Someone asked him about his relationship with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. He said, Ben Simmons, of course, he went to Montverde, so going there I kind of knew about him and followed him on Twitter and Instagram, and then we ended up exchanging numbers. I've been texting him through the college process, just getting advice through college and just wishing him good luck. And then he says, Tom, and of course, Embiid, everyone knows him from Twitter. And how funny he is. And that's just the type of world that it is these days, and you know, it's just, it sounds like even from a young player standpoint how much excitement there was. And Fultz appears to have a really good head on his shoulder, and it was neat to hear Brett Brown talk about how the interview that he had inside of his office. So the Sixers, when they bring, especially the way these pre-draft workouts usually go is that you have, the most common ones are the 6-man pre-draft workout groups, and then occasionally, depending on where you might be slotted in the first round, you get a private individual workout. And after those, Brett Brown likes to bring the player into his office and they talk about some things. And it was in that interview, it seemed like, at least for him, that's when Fultz pretty much convinced him and sealed the deal that he was a guy with the mettle and mental wherewithal to handle everything that comes with the responsibilities he now has.
No, that's great. And like I said before, Brett Brown is really good at his rapport, his relationship with the players. And I'm sure that was kind of a getting to know you kind of session, but he probably was not only trying to get to know Markelle, but trying to find out a little bit about how he ticks. And when you talk about those 6-player workouts, Coach Brown met with those guys also. The players would be completing their workouts, and there would be a half a dozen chairs over by where the Sixers executive offices are, by the glass on the side of the primary court. There's 2 courts here side by side. And Coach Brown's chair would be right in front of him, and he would visit with each and all of them and explain a little bit about Philadelphia, about the history of the Sixers, and go through some things with them. And you know, we talked to a lot of those guys, and they love that. And you know, they get a feel for what Brett Brown's about, what the organization is like. And conversely, you know, Coach Brown gets to delve into their personalities a little bit. And I don't know that you see that in every NBA setting, for that matter, on the professional level, when, you know, you find the head coach in a situation giving, if you will, players that much personal or FaceTime. So that was pretty cool as well. And I know Coach Brown gets a kick out of those interactions.
So we're looking at the screen behind us as we see some of the members of the Philadelphia Eagles tweet out their support for Markelle Fultz. The Trailblazers just picked up from the Sacramento Kings the 10th pick in this year's draft, which was Zach Collins out of Gonzaga. And that will then set up the Kings for 2 mid-first-round selections in addition to De'Aaron Fox. The Phillies welcoming Markelle Fultz. Oh, already a first pitch offer coming in there. And it's, you know, it's neat to kind of see the juxtaposition of comments between what we heard from Brian Colangelo and Brett Brown, and the story of how Markelle Fultz came on the radar for both of them, where Brian Colangelo was like, you know what, in the summer of 2016, after he got out of DeMatha, we were on Fultz when he was at Jordan Brand or Nike Hoop Summit or something like that. Whereas like Brett Brown, and it just is interesting to paint the different mindset of front office manager and head coach. Brett Brown's like, all right, we've got the 3 pick, we'll maybe take a look at guys like a Josh Jackson, who knows, maybe Lonzo Ball could be there. But then it was right when the rumors started happening about the trade with the Celtics, that's when it was like, oh, Fultz. Okay, let's dive a little bit deeper into Markelle Fultz.
And Brett Brown loves this aspect of it too. He talked about this toward the end of the regular season. I mean, you talk about a guy who's in the gym all the time. It's Coach Brown, and you know, not only did he start to get into Fultz, but I think it goes into the larger equation about how much in lockstep Brian Colangelo and Brett Brown are. And you know, you have that picture of that in your mind where Coach was talking about that board in Brian's office about, you know, which players are on the roster, what you expect of certain players, and you know how acquiring a so-and-so can affect another player. But you know, I'm sure he studied Fultz, and you know, everything's at the ready. You know, like you send me everything you got on Fultz, and then he gets totally immersed in it, and then you're able to see him, you know, throughout the course of the summer. And then in training camp, and you know, Coach likes to play with lineups and find different personnel groupings to find out who plays well with certain people. I mean, I don't think people realize, I'm going to use this paper as a prop.
Yeah.
Especially for Brett Brown over the last few years. And maybe, you know, getting back to what we were talking about earlier with Bob Cooney, at a certain point does it become just basketball. But Brett Brown and any coach wakes up every day, they're like, okay, tonight we got so-and-so, who do we have? I mean, he's going through his lineup. There's so much pressure. And how am I going to field a team? And hopefully that'll get a little bit easier in the years to come, where the lineup won't be changing as much. You can just pencil guys in and hope to expect a high level of consistency and improvement with all those players. But, you know, there were times certainly, you know, toward the end of this year with all of the injuries, and then over the course of the last few years, to be able to field a team and figure out how you're going to do it, because it's all about who you have on a given night to be able to perform and execute and get it done. And then, oh, by the way, in the NBA, it happens the next night, and you know, it just keeps coming. And now you add all these talented players to the roster for the Sixers, and like I said, not to be duplicative, but hopefully it'll get better and better. And it's a group of players that, as fans and as members of the organization, that we can all watch grow and organically improve right before our eyes. And that's the rise, and that's the enjoyment of being a season ticket holder and being a fan and being able to experience this all together.
We're hopeful that we're going to probably keep this stream going until right around maybe the 9 o'clock mark, as we continue our Sixers draft live here on Facebook Live. This has been a new experience for us and a blast. Hopefully you are getting something out of it. We are efforting Markelle Fultz's media availability from yesterday potentially to play back to you. We will see if we will be able to get that going. But something that he said that stood out, oh wait, breaking, how about coming across the bottom scroll? Look at that. The #1 pick comes from PG County. We are on a roll.
All right.
Congrats to the legend Markelle. Who is that coming from? The MVP of the finals, Kevin Durant. Wow, that is I mean, that is pretty neat. And we know that Prince George's County area runs deep. Chris Jenkins from Villanova from that same area, and he knew Markel growing up. That made me lose my train of thought.
About going till 9.
Oh, yes, going to 9, and maybe the media availability with Markel. And, you know, he's a no-nonsense guy. I think the way that Brian Colangelo described it was, you can tell he has a chip on his shoulder, but he doesn't necessarily, like, in an efforted way show it. It's just kind of like natural the way he is. And someone asked him during the media availability yesterday, if you were to go to the Sixers, when are they going to start winning? And he was like, as soon as I get there. Which is, you know, just a very natural, calm confidence, which totally is what you want to hear.
Like I said, you got to have that confidence if you're going to excel at this level. You know, you got to be able to believe all these guys. How many times did you hear with Iverson? He thought he was the best player and never denied it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like hey, you have to self-motivate in any number of ways. And these young guys, they have that supreme confidence, because the second you hesitate a little bit, they're all over you. You know what I mean? So you have to have that. That's how these guys have attained. Internally, are there moments of doubt? Sure there are. They're humans, you know, but you gotta ratchet up that confidence to be able to go out there and attack and be the best that you can be.
Your reaction, Tom, on some of the other developments that have been breaking in the draft. The Charlotte Hornets, which picked up Dwight Howard in that deal with Atlanta, they have snagged Malik Monk to pair up alongside Kemba Walker, which should be a very nice backcourt. And you consider Nicola Batum. Those are some major three-point shooting
they're gonna
threats.
be good.
But it's, you know, I think people said that Monk was probably the best pure three-point shooter, but as you see the bouncy jump shot of Markel Fultz on your screen, 51 three-pointers last year.
What did the Hornets give up to the Hawks for Howard? It was nothing. They're like, oh, they had to give up something.
Right, nothing major, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
No, they're going to be good. Steve Clifford, it's Brett Brown. You know, they've known each other for years. He's a really good coach. I think the big, I mean, again, we knew there would be some surprises, some movement. I think the big deal is the Jimmy Butler. If that actually comes to pass, that's a huge trade. Tom Thibodeau going out and getting one of his former players. And how about we talk about players improving? And you know, you talked about players improving their shot, their ability to shoot the basketball. Jimmy Butler did not play. I mean, did not play his first year. I think he really didn't start to see a lot of time until his third year. You go back and Lou Williams, who's now with Houston and started with the Sixers, came out of the high school ranks out of Gwinnett, Georgia. He didn't play either. And look, you know, these are two of the better scorers in the NBA. But Chicago, Gar Forman and John Paxson have, you know, again, it's been reported if it happens where they part ways with Jimmy Butler to get Markkanen, who the Wolves drafted, that would be part of that deal. And then Zach LaVine, who's still rehabbing off a major knee surgery, and Chris Dunn, who played but didn't have a primary role with the Wolves, but the young player that a lot of Villanova fans are familiar with out of Providence. He projects to be a very good player in the NBA. That's a major move right there. That's one of the biggest moves that I think, you know, has come down the pike tonight.
And I like the amazing thing about this time of year is, I mean, it's almost in some ways with some of these franchises, it's like, well, if you're not doing something or really, really doing something for us within 2 years, then, you know, maybe we think and move on. Like D'Angelo Russell going to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Lakers, big picture, are trying to do a lot more next offseason. Or Chris Dunn, you know, granted, there's other factors at work in Minnesota, but what's neat about the Sixers situation is that just you read body language, you listen to it, it sounds like they feel like they have certain guys that they know are going to be dependable to build around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You want, you know, so many teams, you know, have what they call a core four, and hopefully with the Sixers, and Embiid and Saric and Simmons and Fultz, you know, and you got Covington. They definitely have some really talented young players. Never before has the sound effect, those that chiming bells that signals another pick has been coming up. Has been so prominent because we're not watching the television, but you're like,
Right.
ooh, another pick is coming up. So.
Pavlovian response. Oh, the Detroit Pistons
Yeah,
get
that
Luke
was-
Kennard.
That's one that the mock draft experts called, because that was where they projected him to go to Stan Van Gundy and the Pistons. And again, a very good college player for Duke over the years.
Yeah, and some people may say that obviously Malik Monk got a lot of headlines, but maybe it was Kennard who might have been the premier shooter in this year's draft. Who do we got there? Kelsey Plum. That's right.
Brian, one thing that's worth mentioning, speaking of Kennard, what did he play, 2 years at Duke?
2.
Right, he's from Ohio, was a very good, was he a quarterback in high school? He was,
I believe so.
Great athlete. You know, and maybe if we're able to speak with somebody later, but just throwing it out there, like, when you asked earlier, can you see a player and say, oh, I think he's a big, but to talk to an NBA personnel executive, a front office guy like Mark Eversley or Brian Colangelo or Brandon Williams, about, like, here's like Frank Mason. You did a great interview with him. We learned a lot from him. College Player of the Year, right, at Kansas?
There were, first of all, it's amazing. There are 10 apparently National Player of the Year awards, which is amazing in and of itself. He won them all.
He won them all.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. 10-0. And he's not a first-round pick.
Right.
You know, he was definitely a smaller guy, but like how the NBA skill set differs so much from being a great, unique, well, I don't know if unique, but college player. And, you know, there's 100 stories about a skill set that didn't translate into the NBA, and I think it's easy with 20/20 vision to say, oh, Steve Alford couldn't create his own shot, and, you know, any number of other examples. But why that's the case, and maybe that's exactly it, or their offense was such that they sent a million screens for him, but, you know, sometimes you're wondering, well, geez, why isn't he going to be a good pro? And definitely guys fall through the cracks on the, you know, on the scouting at the pro level, and certain players do become good pro players. But isn't it amazing that some of these college players that we've watched for a number of years, and sometimes it's, well, he's 23, he's too old, you know what I mean? But it's they see it. I always use this phrase, but I feel like I'm borrowing it: the upside potential, or the NBA skill set required in other players that they don't see in certain players.
We are about, at least in distance across, maybe like 60 feet from the area, and then down a level from where the
Which is
war
ironic
room
because
is.
that's where we always are watching practice.
Like,
are they going to blink the lights twice, if by land and one if by sea? Because they got the I don't know if you call them blackout curtains, but there's definitely a shield of privacy, as well there should be.
Yes, of course.
Because the media's right here and they need to focus, but that's where the Sixers basketball brain trust, if you will, is going through the draft. I hesitate, it's basketball, to call it the war room anymore, especially with everything that's going on in the world, and to our men and women in service. This is the basketball boardroom, if you will, during draft headquarters for the Sixers here at the training complex in Camden. And big second round for the 76ers. Like I said, you know, they've had mock drafts to this point, and then we'll really focus in on where those players start to move after round one.
Right, and a bulk of the players the Sixers worked out here, you think of, and if you really follow this stuff, you're probably aware of it, but the 4 players from Oregon that came through, a guy like a Frank Mason III out of Kansas, Josh Hart, where's he going to go in the second round?
Had a great conversation. What about Emil Jefferson?
Right, just a polished,
wasn't he a great guy?
Yeah, really nice conversation.
Jeez, you talk about a pro body.
Yes.
Right?
There's no doubt about it.
The other thing, too, and maybe if you follow the NBA, but, you know, the first 30 picks, the first round, they get guaranteed contracts. That 31st pick, exciting to be drafted, but you got to make the team. And there's probably some money that might be, you know, like we'll give you this or that.
Sure.
But it's not, you don't have a 4-year deal with options and all like that. It's a whole new ball game in that second round.
And a whole new ball game also with the second round, and I think you brought this up earlier, was that the two-way contracts that are part of the reworked CBA, there's 2 of them on NBA roster this year. So if you're like, oh, a second rounder, maybe we'll see him in the summer league or something like that. Well, not quite. He could be someone that's shuttled back and forth between Delaware and the Sixers.
And that's going to really up the level of play, I think, in the G League. with guys that are, going to be in the NBA, which you've seen already. We're just going to take a look and see who's going on.
Yeah. We'll get one final update of the draft board from Tom, and then we will step aside for what I would predict to be somewhere in the 15 to 20-minute range. We will or a little bit longer to catch our breaths, yes. Certainly if there's any breaking news as far as the Sixers potentially moving back into the first round, which is something that Brian Colangelo said on Monday might be a strategy. They look to effort that they can do so. We'll come back with that. But if not, there are 4 picks the Sixers have in the second round: 36, 39, 46,
Throw in
and
Joe
50.
Lunardi.
That's right.
Don't forget.
Yes, indeed. So
Get into
we
the
are
whole
standing by,
bracketology thing.
and yeah, we'll get some deets. We will get some good deets. So stay with us here on Sixers Draft Live on Facebook Live from Camden at the 76ers Training Complex.
Come back to you guys for like another 5, and then we can terminate the stream then.
One at 9:30.
I'm just happy. It's another opportunity to play the game of basketball, which I love to do. So my goal is to be the #1 pick. That's something I've been dreaming of since a kid. So when I found out they had the chance to get the #1 pick, I just went to go work out, and hopefully I get drafted by him. So.
Do you think there are going to be extra expectations on you because you're going to be the #1 pick?
I think other people are going to have expectations on me, but at the end of the day, I got goals for myself. Me and my family got goals and expectations, and the team. That's all that matters to me. I'm not worried about what other people think and other people say. So at the end of the day, if I'm happy, that's all that matters.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years?
Yeah.
Hopefully being one of the top players in the NBA, just having a great career, taking care of my family, and the same guy, being humble, working hard, and hopefully leading somebody else on, a young guy, and that's pretty much it. Saturday? This past Saturday? Philly? Oh, yeah, no, that was good. I mean, I woke up that morning. I didn't know where I was going to work out. So once my trainer told me Philly, I just got in the car, went to sleep the whole way there. I did what I did, go play basketball, and after I got me a nice steak and cheese. So that was all good, and then I came right back home. So that's all it was.
When did you first get any wind that the 76ers were interested in trading for this pick?
That morning, Saturday, I didn't really know they was trading for it, but the guy, my trainer Keith, he told me that we had to go work out for him. So that's all I did. I just do what he tells me to do, and go play basketball.
What went through your mind when the Celtics traded down?
When they traded, I mean, it didn't really affect me. I just thought about it, and I was just seeing who they're trading with. And like I said, I'm just blessed to be here, blessed to have this opportunity. So I'm not going to complain about anything that happens. And it was just another opportunity to play the game of basketball.
How many people have reached out from Philly to you on social media? And
On
stuff?
social media, it's been crazy, really. You seen Embiid do the tweet. Me and Ben Simmons already had a good relationship, but of course the fans there are just blowing up Instagram, Twitter, and everything like that, and it just shows the support they have. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to Embiid, Simmons, Robert, all of them, just talking about the chances if I come there and just getting some advice, really. Just them telling me about the draft process and just enjoying the process. So. Yeah, nah. He's a jokester, so just being with him, really, he's a good dude. Though at the end of the day, he wants the best for you, and that's all it is, really. Him just cracking jokes and just telling me, like I said, giving me advice for this whole weekend. Yeah, for sure. Just coming in there, then watching my workout made it feel even better. Just knowing it just wasn't the organization, so having them there, it made me relax a little bit more, and just being able to talk to them after about just how they did through it, and them telling me I did a good job. It was just kind of fun.
You came to a Sixers game. What was that atmosphere like? And were you there more than once, or did you just come to one game?
No, I came to one game against Brooklyn, and that atmosphere was crazy. And being as though it was that time of the season and still have those many fans there, it was pretty cool just to see that.
You talked about goals, and like you said, you could just go by the goals you and your family have. What are your goals?
My goals, first of all, is to be the best young man and basketball player I can possibly be. But coming in, I want to win Rookie of the Year, and I got a pretty high goal for myself coming in, want to be the MVP. I set my goals high because I want to put in a lot of work to go achieve them. So.
What kind of personal competition? A lot of great point guards in your staff. What kind of competition is that like among you guys?
I mean, we're all competitors coming in here. Everybody wants to compete against each other. Everybody wants to prove they're the best. So coming in, this whole draft class competitive, and then already in the league, you can see the guards competing every night. You got to go against a great guard, great players every night. So that speaks for itself.
Well, how much did you know about the process? How much did you follow along? Did you care when you were a little bit younger these last few years?
Well, actually, I've been saying trust the process because I didn't even know about Philly, but I got cut from JV, so staying at the same high school, the big thing we should say back home is just trusting the process and not transferring school. So I didn't really know about the saying trust the process with Philly until probably my senior year going on to college, and when I started watching basketball, I've seen the tweets and all that about it. So really, I thought I came up with it at first, but then I found that out, so it was pretty cool.
What do you think of it, and like, how has Joel, has he spoken with you about that, and like, how it's become a thing in Philly?
No, he just makes the joke about just trusting the process, and of course, like I trust the process. Not even talking about with Philly, but like I said, just going through JV and everything like that. So Iverson, he's a legend. Everybody knows that. I mean, great point guard. Of course, his crossover is what he's known for, and then what he did in Philly, he just did a lot for the city. And growing up, I used to watch a lot of his highlights and stuff like that. So he's a great point guard that came out of Philly. So winning. As soon as I get there, that's the goal. My goal is always to come in winning. As soon as I get there, I'm doing whatever I have to do to get the winning there. And that starts in summer league. That starts the first day I step on wherever I go. So if I'm going to Philly, as soon as I step on the facility, my mindset is winning. I'm real excited. If I get a chance to go there, I think it'll be a great fit for me. Just being around young core, so everybody gets to hang out. It feels like college almost. So going there, knowing the future is bright, and knowing that the talent there.
back at 76ers draft headquarters here at the team's training complex in Camden, New Jersey. It has been an exciting night so far. #1 pick, Markelle Fultz, of course. We heard his media availability from up in New York City yesterday, the day before the draft. We're about halfway through the first round. We have a lot more to come. We'll read you a comment or two from Markelle's media availability up in New York. Someone asked him, "You're going to be playing with Ben Simmons. Did they say if you're going to be the point or you're going to be playing off the ball?" And he said, really, it's just to do whatever you need to do to win. It's going to be times where maybe Ben brings the ball up or times where I'm bringing the ball up. It's going to do whatever we need to do to win. And that has seemed to be the underlying theme so far of tonight. Bryan Colangelo said it during his media availability that Sixers want to win, and they want to win with people they like. A lot to like about Markelle Fultz. So the way things are right now, we've kind of had a little bit of a lull in the evening. We have some disappointing news to report. Joe Lunardi, our good friend from the Draftology series, he will not be able to make it to Camden tonight, but we still are going to have a third stream later on tonight that focuses on the second round. So Tom and I, we are going to catch our breaths for a bit. We might reload on a very nice Garces Catering sandwich they have to offer here, get some agua, and make sure we are ready to go to lead you into the latter stages of the night. Because, you know, the first round, the Sixers might be done in the first, but in the second round, a lot more to come with picks number 36, 39, 46, and 50. And then there will be one last Bryan Colangelo press conference tonight after all is said and done. So thank you very much for being with us. We will talk to you momentarily. Stay on top of the Facebook page for all the latest, and we will be back soon. See you.